We turn now to Indonesia and the remarkable recovery of a community that was nearly wiped out by natural disaster. NewsHour special correspondent Kira Kay reports.
On a Sunday morning, the villagers of Lampuuk gather for a feast, celebrating the start of the harvest season. But Lampuuk is also celebrating the life that has returned to it, a decade after a wall of water swept the village away. Misran Yusuf is the village's imam. He recalls a scene eerily like this one on December 26, 2004.
There was a wedding that day. We were preparing food and all of a sudden an earthquake hit. It was so strong people fell. We had no idea that the seawater would rise. We had never heard of a tsunami.
The quake that hit offshore was a 9.1 on the magnitude scale. Within 20 minutes, waves 60 feet high hit the region at hundreds of miles per hour.
It sounded like thunder. I held my breath and the water came over the rooftops. When I surfaced, I saw people clinging to a tree trunk. They pulled me on board and we floated until we reached the next village.
130,000 people died and whole communities vanished. Lampuuk's lone standing mosque became an iconic image of the disaster. 10 years later, it is hard to picture that destruction on the streets of the capital city, Banda Aceh. The once shattered downtown is now firmly back in business. The riverside, choked with debris, is a thriving waterfront again. People overall seem happy. The tsunami had carved a new shoreline, disappearing whole blocks of the community of Ulele. But now it is a favorite beach destination for families. Only small hints remain of what happened here. Mayor Eliza Sadudin says the region has built back better.
The economy has improved. Our poverty level has decreased to a rate that is below the national average. Our infrastructure is better than even before the tsunami. Roads are now reaching remote villages. There are a lot of lessons that Aceh can share about how we got back on our feet and how we were able to cooperate with many institutions.
The international disaster response was a massive $7 billion in aid and reconstruction. While not entirely corruption-free, the process was overall transparent and responsive to actual need. The biggest challenge was to provide housing for 500,000 newly homeless. But 10 years on, nearly everyone who needed a permanent home has gotten one.
The tsunami feels like it was only a month ago, but thank goodness we've rebuilt our lives.
Murni and Sakina both lived in Ulele and managed to outrun the waves. After living in a displacement camp, they were given houses in a sprawling community overlooking Banda Aceh, known as Jackie Chan Hill. The action star helped fund the construction.
We'd prefer to stay here rather than in Ulele, where it's so close to the sea. I get frightened even when there's wind like this, let alone an earthquake.
In Lampuuk, 800 of the 1,000 residents died, but survivors chose to return to their ancestral land, and they now have an action plan.
If a quake is strong, we rush to the nearby hill. We also have people on lookout by the sea. If the level changes, they will rush here and alert us. I'm so grateful for the help from other countries. A lot of countries came. Even George Bush and Bill Clinton came to my village.
Aceh's gratitude to the world is clear. Banda Aceh Central Park has been turned into a monument of thanks, each donor country acknowledged individually. A world-class museum to the tsunami is a huge weekend draw. Most of the visitors are Achenese, many too young to remember what happened here. The walls describe in detail the global response, and there are displays teaching the science at the root of the disaster. And nearby, a startling sight, a massive electricity barge that was carried 3 miles inland by a wave and dropped in the middle of a neighborhood. Authorities decided to leave it in place. Lina Herlena is a certified tour guide.
It shown our strength. It shown our strength that after the tsunami, the life is not stopped. The life is not end. It also teach our generation how to take the lesson from what was happened in the tsunami.
These lessons extend to new emergency response procedures implemented by the city's Tsunami Center. Dr. Ella Melianda manages the program.
The road is wider now, And the coastal road has been designed in a way that it is quite far away from the coastline. And then they have clear marks of evacuation road.
Tsunami sirens dot the skyline. They warn citizens when an earthquake of 7 or higher is detected out at sea. When they sound, residents should make their way to a vertical evacuation site, water-resistant high-rises with a helipad on top.
We have like 17 junior high schools under our program, and for these schools, they know what to do. They have built their own evacuation route, where the meeting point for all these children and how the parents should pick them up.
Aceh has also become a hub for disaster response training. The university offers a master's program drawing students from around the country and abroad. And disaster mitigation classwork is required for all students at the university, regardless of major.
For this class, we have government officials from all around the area, and they will disseminate their knowledge to their peers.
The professor is Dr. Mohammed Dirhamshah.
They learn about early warning systems for tsunamis and floods. They learn what to do within a short time frame before a disaster actually strikes. They need to know what to do so people can survive. We want them to have a wide range of knowledge. That is what's lacking today.
But the first activation of the system didn't go very well. In 2012, an 8.6 earthquake hit the area, and people panicked, not following evacuation procedure and jamming the streets with vehicles. Milianda agrees that more public training is still needed, but says the psychological legacy of 2004 is also to blame.
Suddenly it happened again, and they got really traumatized, and they don't know what to do. It's just like blank. What we have learned also throughout almost 10 years now is that the recovery is more towards the physical recovery, reconstruction, but not really on the trauma healing itself. It still needs to be done in more sustainable way.
Tour guide Lena is also a survivor. She finds a form of therapy through her work.
At the beginning of working here, I feel like it's very hard to talk to another people to answer the same question what has happened to me at the time. I feel like I experienced a flashback, but as the time goes on, it really helps me to recover the trauma.
Perhaps most startling in Aceh's story of recovery is the perspective Acehnese share, that the tsunami, for all its destruction, also had a silver lining. It ended 30 years of civil war that had already torn apart society, leaving thousands dead and many people tortured by the occupying Indonesian military.
It was kind of like almost endless. I mean, we never thought that it would end at some point, but because of this tsunami, and then everybody stopped and think, okay, we have to stop this conflict. So this is really like a blessing in disguise for the Acehnese community.
Within months of the tsunami, the Indonesian government and separatist rebels signed a peace deal. The presence of aid organizations at the time kept Aceh open to the world and ensured the peace would hold. On a beach that 10 years ago was littered with the debris of people's lives, the palm trees sheared off at the stump, Acehnese families today are enjoying a feeling of normality for the first time in decades. Free from war, more prepared for disaster if it comes again, and grateful for the time they have now.